Getting right into the agenda with the superintendent's report with Mr. Michael Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out. Of course, this meeting each month is a special meeting as we recognize our students of the month, so we'll get to that in just a few moments. Very exciting night for our families and our children are being recognized. I want to also give the board a couple of quick updates. First of all, as you know, we have begun the process to conduct a security audit for our school district, and we'll touch upon a little bit of that during the budget presentation. But in preparation for the potential outcome, we want to create a flexible environment so that we can respond and react to that security audit to enhance our security measures as needed. And right now we have a contract with the town of Marlborough for school resource officer services. So we provide a school resource officer with that contract at the middle school. The contract that is the lease for this building actually provides the SRO support at the high school. So the town pays for that with the lease here. However, that's the limit to that contract. So if we were to expand our need for school resource officer services, we would need to make some adjustments to the contract. So for the board's consideration, Mr. Wither and I are working with our attorney and also with town representatives to prepare a draft revised contract that will allow for flexibility depending upon budget and depending upon the board's desire and administrative recommendation, so that if there is a need for us or a want for us to expand SRO services, we'll be able to do that easily. So I would anticipate at the next meeting that I'd be able to provide the board with a contract to consider, and either a vote on the contract at that time or at the next meeting. So we'll have some flexibility then.
She has taken what began as a natural talent and has crafted an incredible voice through her hard work. On stage, Caitlin has performed many roles, including the kind-hearted Cinderella in this year's drama production of Into the Woods, and the dark, comedic Wednesday Addams in last year's Addams Family the Musical. Each character has a very different dramatic and vocal requirements. Caitlin took the characters' intricacies in stride and rose to each challenge. I am so incredibly proud to have worked with Caitlin all of these 11 years. She's a shining example of the rewards of hard work and dedication. In the performance world, these are some of the most valuable skills to have. I hope Caitlin realizes the impact that she has had on the Marlborough School District Performing Arts Program. We will miss her incredibly next year, but wish her only the best as she goes on to pursue musical theater training at the prestigious American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York City next year. Congratulations, Caitlin.
Stand right here.
So let's jump over the middle school and go to the elementary school. Ms. Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. There's always a lot of jumping in the elementary school, so we appreciate it. Before I introduce our Student of the Month, I want to introduce our Library Media Specialist, Mrs. Maureen Stolter, and her teaching assistant, Mrs. Michelle Weckman. And I want to tell you how special it is for a child to be nominated as Student of the Month from the Library Media Specialist. It's an honor for any child to be nominated by their teacher, one of 25 or so in a class, but Mrs. Weckman and Mrs. Stolter have the unique perspective of seeing almost 900 students as part of their caseload. So our student of the month has been selected as the student of the month out of all 900 students, really. So it's my great pleasure right now to introduce our library media specialist, Mrs. Stolter, Mrs. Michelle Weckman, also our teaching assistant in the library, and Joseph McKinnon, third grader, student of the month from Mick Morris. I'm sorry, I'm looking at someone else, I apologize. All those 900 kids, Joseph. And he's our third grade student of the month. Welcome.
I just said all my years at Marlboro, and I still get so nervous to come up here, so forgive me. But I am honored to present Joseph with the award for Student of the Month. He is currently a third grader in Mrs. Daly's class, and he always is just a pleasure to have in class, has a big smile on his face. We love to have him in library. But I have one short story that really made Joseph stand out from the rest this year. After returning from one of our big winter storms, Mrs. Daly's class was just a tad excited from too much sugar and snow, snow day fun. So I had shared with the class that I was a little disappointed with their behavior and knew that they could do better next time in library. A few days later, I heard a little voice at my door. "Mrs. Stalter?" I said, "Hi, Joseph, how can I help you?" In the sweetest and most sincere voice, he said to me, "Mrs. Stalter, I've been thinking a lot about my behavior in class the other day, and I wanted to apologize. I really didn't want to disappoint you." The tears in my eyes and the shock made it hard for me to even get out the words to thank him, a third grade student coming to apologize to me, and he really didn't have to, but his teacher, Miss Daly, also told me that he had asked other students in the class to come with him to apologize. And I'm still just so touched by Joseph's noble and small act. Not one of us is perfect, and owning up to our mistakes is what life is all about. To Joseph's family, I applaud you for raising such a kind and independent young boy. Joseph, I applaud you for setting such a great example for your peers. I congratulate you on a much-deserved Student of the Month award.
Certainly last but not least, we'll go with the middle schools.
Good evening and thank you. And in middle school tradition, we like to do things as a team. So here to present the journey of our 6th, 7th, 8th grade student is her 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers. So we're going to present tonight. Ms. Recho, Ms. Nicola, and Ms. Kane will come up and present on our wonderful 8th grade student, Tatiana Rosado.
Good evening. So I got the pleasure of welcoming Tatiana to the middle school as her 6th grade teacher for ELA and social studies. Tatiana came to the middle school ready to rear and go, go, go. She wasn't really sure how she wanted to mold herself, and she tried lots of different ways and found a fabulous one. Tatiana has such a fabulous presence. She has a beautiful smile that she shares with her teachers, with her peers. She's thoughtful and kind and considerate. And even on her roughest days, when she's really blue and feeling down, if someone says hello to her, she will stop. She will say hello, and she will have a smile for you. And if someone needs help, she stops whatever is going on with her life and helps them. That really embodies what we think of when we think about grit and determination and kindness. Truly a student who deserves the recognition of Student of the Month.
Okay, I was introduced to Tatiana in 7th grade and had the pleasure of seeing her twice a day in our ELA class. I was blessed to see her first thing in the morning as she would help me get the class focused and ready for learning. She would often volunteer to read, which is a challenge for her, but she accepted gladly and was very enthusiastic doing so. She had her moments where she was reminded to think before speaking, but that was something that she knew she needed to work on. I was pregnant last year, so she would always ask me how I was doing, how's the baby, and she would also talk about her sister who had a baby that same time. She's very family-oriented and would enrich our lessons with stories about her family. When I went out on maternity leave, she wrote me an email saying she would try her best to not get in trouble and to make the right choices, and this is where I saw her grow, become mature, and started to really progress. Fast forward to 8th grade, Tatiana is now in all inclusion classes, a goal that she set this year and achieved, okay? She's rarely seen in the office, and instead of giving her teachers a run for their money, she's giving them her best efforts and an occasional hug here and there. This past year has been a challenge for Tatiana, but despite her family's health challenges and supporting her father through his ongoing battle with cancer, Tatiana still comes to school with a smile on her face, is focused on her work, helps her classmates remain on tasks, and puts forth incredible effort to succeed. Tatiana is a leader who shows compassion and has matured into a smart and capable young lady, fully deserving of this award. The progress she's made in the middle school is inspiring, and we cannot wait to hear about all the achievements she has when she enters the high school. On behalf of the Marlboro Middle School, the Special Education Department, we are honored and so proud of Tatiana, and we love that she is our Student of the Month.
Oh, I'm crying again. It's been tremendous to get to know her over the last 3 years.
We're all going. You get in the front with her. You don't need to be here. It don't matter where. Go, Mom. Very proud. Go.
So if you didn't take notes, what you just witnessed was quite impressive. I mean, Caitlin, Joseph, Tatiana, you have some impressive characteristics that were just spoken about you. I mean, you're precocious. I like that, Caitlin. You're a great example. You're a leader. You're considerate. You have a fabulous presence. You're independent. You're kind. You're thoughtful. I actually love the character that Joseph displayed by unsolicited going back to his teacher because he thought it was the right thing to do, to say, hey, I'm sorry. Joseph, that's pretty awesome. Please keep being that person that you are. That's the example that we need for everybody in this world. It's fantastic. Thank you so much, families. You got wonderful children, great supports. Teachers, thank you very much for recognizing these great kids. Another round of applause.
Before we move on to the student rep report, we'll take a 2-minute recess and give parents and students an opportunity to get home. So 2 minutes. I know. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it really gives you a true flavor of the culture, you know? Right. Yeah. Yep.
We had talked about it previously in the meeting. Because the way it's written right now, it's limited to just the email. This way we can open it up more to the read. And then we want to expand it based on the budget. We understand.
Tomorrow? 3:30. Yeah.
Well, the reality is, though, I mean, as long as we do it in either the next meeting, we can get support now without running out of value in the conference. But we need to get it done. The way it's written is that we're allowed to have 2 SROs. Contract with 2 SROs. Isn't the total dollar value? No. It's rate and a number of SROs.
Right, right.
Equal.
Yeah.
So we have
That's what
to
it is.
adjust the language so that it doesn't
Yeah. 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 Or I can tell you right now. Okay. Okay. The budget transfer. What is that? Is that just salary stuff? Oh, closes. Both of them? Oops.
that in the attachment.
Yeah. Right. Okay, everyone, we'll get back to our agenda with Ms. Isabella Martinez reporting on our schools.
Well, starting with the elementary school, on March 23rd, high school cheerleaders went down to the elementary school to celebrate kindness at the PBIS assembly. The annual Iditarod was held on March 16th. This annual event recreates Alaska's Iditarod sled dog race. Second grade students were given the opportunity to become pond keepers due to a Mohonk Preserve scholarship. And elementary school students went to the high school to watch a preview of the Drama Club's production of Into the Woods on March 15th. Moving on to the middle school, Diversity Night was held Tuesday before spring break. There were 36 booths and well over 200 attendees. Also this week, the week before spring break, Ms. Giacoya and 16 middle school students attended the FCCLA conference in Syracuse. 13 students were awarded medals. April 10th, the ELA New York State testing began, and this time the test was computer-based, so each student sat for 2 days, which was a decrease from 3 days. Today, the 6th grade class went on the Y2K field trip at the Stewart Air Base, and on April 27th, the middle school is hosting its annual health fair. And then lastly, the high school, on March 15th through 18th, the Drama Club put on performances of Into the Woods. On March 16th, Mr. Cantone and a team of engineers and IBM employees visited the high school and presented information on careers in STEM fields to interested students. On March 19th, the New York State Trooper Vetter presented information to parents on substance abuse warning signs and help sources. On March 23rd, world language students saw Don Quixote in the city. The Spanish Honor Society induction ceremony was held on Friday, April 6th. And then lastly, students in physics classes went on a trip to explore various careers at Central Hudson's Career Day on April 12th. That is it.
Thank you. And moving on to our final presentation, we will have our final budget presentation before proposed adoption with Mr. Patrick Witherow.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go through these again. We've seen them a number of times, so we'll probably go through it at a fairly brisk pace, and if there's any questions at any point, feel free to just stop me and ask the question, and after we're done, the board can answer or can ask any questions they may have. So again, the theme of the budget for 18-19, stability and security. Security, continuing to maintain a stable fiscal environment, offering high-quality academic programs, and security, offering the strong programs in a safe and secure environment. So as we discussed at the last meeting, right now we're in the process of contracting with the security firm that's going to come in and do an analysis of our buildings for us and provide recommendations. And a couple of the other bullet points are just items that are on our radar as possible needs for the district, and we'll have a better idea once we get the report back from the security firm on which of these endeavors we may want to pursue. These are current in-process safety and security enhancements. We've talked pretty extensively about the phone system. The portable radios will be ready to be ordered probably within a couple of days, if not tomorrow. And we have enhancements to our camera and video system through the Smarter Schools Bond Act proposed. So the budget-to-budget increase On paper and accounting, it looks like $152,024, but we want to be very transparent. We did remove $1 million of the Smarter Schools Bond Act that we had budgeted in the general fund for the 17-18 school year. We removed it from the general fund in the 18-19 school year after discussion with the auditors. It'll be captured in the capital fund, which is more appropriate for project type work. So on paper, it looks like we have that $152,000 increase, but in reality, it's about $1.15 million increase in expenditures, which if we look at that number, represents a 2.03% increase in proposed expenditures from last year. So we just want to be very clear, budget to budget, it's a much smaller increase, but the actual impact is that 2.03% increase. The tax levy remains unchanged from what we had previously. The $34.77 million is our tax cap. It's an increase of $830,000 over the levy from last year. And we just wanted to note that's 2.45%, which is our cap figure. And this increase in the levy will be the first time since the 14-15 school year that we've seen the levy increase. We had 3 consecutive years of decreases of levy based on the tax cap calculation. Again, the major cost drivers, we have slight adjustment from what we talked about previously. The day after the last meeting, we had a couple new registrants in the district that are going to require some fairly expensive BOE services. So while we still have the option or the ability to capture those in the budget, we will. You're going to adopt the budget tonight. Tomorrow we may have the same thing happen. But at this point, our budget's fixed, and then we operate within that extra 2.3 million, the 4% that buffer that we have just for these types of contingent expenses that occur. So again, after tonight, the budget will be fixed, but you do see the BOE services, which was around a 125 at the last time, is looking at about a $325,000 increase at this point. And again, any potential school safety enhancements that are identified through the audit will be funded through internal measures that either increased efficiencies, unexpected retirements, controlled expenditures, anything we can do to make those funds available to finance the improvements that are necessary without increasing the budget beyond where we're at. So state aid numbers remain unchanged from the last presentation. Revenue remains unchanged other than the addition of a couple $100,000 in appropriated fund balance to reflect those increased enrollments that we had in BOCES. I don't know what that is. Okay. That's right. So again, the tax rate estimate, the same as we had last year, or excuse me, at the last meeting. The levy didn't change, so the tax rate estimate remains the same. And again, with the caveat that these numbers are based on the total assessed value of the district for last fall, the equalization rate for last fall. Those numbers will change and they will have an impact on what the final rates are. But, but this is our best estimate at this point given the information that we have currently. So this is the estimated tax bill increases based on those estimated tax rates. So just for example, a $200,000 sale price home with a basic star exemption would be looking at about a $322 increase in their tax bill in Marlboro and Plattekill, and about $269 in Newburgh. This is our 3-part budget comparison. This is the legally required method for us to present the budget to the voters. So again, we break it out into administrative, program, and capital with a total of $56.888 million. So we do have, on Tuesday, May 5th, we're going to have the budget vote. And May 15th, I'm sorry, I'm looking too fast. We're going to have the budget vote, and there are going to be 3 seats open for the Board of Education. 2 of those seats are full-term seats, which will be for 3 years starting July 1st through June 30th of 2021. And the 3rd seat is the unexpired term of Bill Bell. That will start on the night of the election, May 15th, and that'll run through 6/30 of 2019. So the first 2 highest voters will get the longest terms. The 3rd highest vote will get the unexpired term of Bill Bell. We did draw the candidates earlier in the week, so they will appear on the ballot in the order as presented here. A final reminder, Tuesday, May 15th, right here in this room, the budget vote and board election. And that will take place from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Do we have any questions?
Patrick, yes. In regards to just getting back to the trustee election, so the third highest vote, if that happens to be a sitting board member, what happens at that time?
Sure. So if the third highest vote getter is a sitting board member, the night of the election, that board member will have to resign their current seat and then immediately be appointed to the unexpired term of Bill Bell. So they will remain on the Board of Education, switching seats from their current seat to the unexpired term, and you would then have their seat remain vacant until July 1st, when one of the newly elected members, who was one of the first two highest vote getters, would be sworn in. So if an incumbent board member is the third highest vote getter, you will still be one seat vacant on the board until July 1st.
We would still have the option, though, at that point, to appoint one of those other two people to that vacant seat for the remainder of the school year, correct?
Correct. Right, you would have the option. You could either appoint them, they could start just as the third highest vote would start on that day, or the seat could remain empty until July 1st. Yes. Oh, I didn't put that on there. I'm sorry. That'll be May 3rd, the Thursday, May 3rd. It's a regularly scheduled board meeting. I will update the presentation to include that before we put it on the website. It was on last week's, but we didn't put it on this one. Any other questions? And we will, if the board adopts the budget tonight, the budget document, the board has to adopt a budget tonight. Budget document will be available tomorrow, and we met with our public relations people who are working on the budget flyer that will get mailed out to all district residents, which will also have all of the dates and all the pertinent information in there.
Pat, excuse me, I'm trying to reconcile a couple of numbers. On one page where you show the budget increase, 2.03, 1.152 million, right?
Yes.
And then when I flip to the three-part budget comparison and look at the changes, it doesn't add up to 1.15 million.
No, it won't. It should be about a $152,000 difference, because that's the number. We took out the $1 million in Smarter Schools Bond Act money, so that although the budget is only increasing on paper by $152,000 from last year to this year, the total dollar amount of the budget, our expenditures are actually increasing by $1 million plus that, because we removed the $1 million. So that would, if we had left the $1 million in the general fund, this would be $57,880,880. So we just wanted to be very clear that the budget is not only going up. The budget is only going up $152,000, but the expenditures associated with that is going up $1.15 million.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Just how does the devaluation of the power plants fall into this? I don't really see it captured.
Well, I mean, that's captured in my estimated tax rate. So what I did is I took the taxable assessed value of Newburgh, the correct taxable assessed value for the 17-18 school year. I deducted down the drop in the Roaston assessment and then ran my estimation based on that
So that's
being the
all
value.
that's captured in here.
It should, yes, it is in calculated. And what happened is last year that drop was $15 million. This year it's 3.6. So the impact is much more negligible compared to what it's been in previous years.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
And if we have the opportunity to be made whole from that $1.5 million deficit, how does that play out?
That would play out if you looked at the previous presentation where we estimated the fund balance at each of the end of the years. You would basically, to the bottom line, fund balance would add in 1.2 million to all of those numbers. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
on to public comment on agenda items. Moving on to the consent agenda. Resolve that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the following transfers, contracts, and reports as presented. Personnel recommendations, claims audit, letter and report, budget transfers, health and welfare for Spackenkill Union Free School District, CSE, CPSE recommendations, unofficial Board of Education meeting minutes from April 5th, 2018, financial reports for March 2018, BOCES transportation service, Medicaid, and STAC contract. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Russell, second, James. Any discussion?
I have a couple of questions, probably for Pat, on the financial reports, I think. The high school and middle school extracurricular reports, one of them, the class of 2018, shows some pretty large numbers, just balance, receipts, expenses, ending balance. I mean, what's significant about that? Or what's driving that those significant numbers?
I'd have to get that answer for you and give it to you at the next
Just
meeting. I don't have the detailed backup behind all the activity in these accounts.
Usually this time of year, it's all the senior class stuff, John? So trip, prom, the senior trip, prom, all the stuff that they have going on. Usually the senior class has got a lot, and by the end of the year, there's nothing left.
Does that represent all money coming into fundraising, or that's also money that
Everything.
they might have to spend for the prom?
Everything.
Both, yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Okay.
But we can get some details, Pat can pull that for you and provide a written update.
So you typically see this graduating class in that
Correct.
kind of range?
Correct.
Okay. And then the school lunch report. Help me again, I know we've had these discussions, but the numbers swing pretty wildly from year to year as far as, net profit and net loss in that area. And we talked a little bit about changing reports or looking at it differently, but what's swinging these like $30,000 differences here?
There's a lot of factors that could play into there. A lot of it's timing, when we receive food from, the government surplus food, when we receive commodities, when we receive reimbursement from the state. I could get you a better picture of what's driving these numbers, but that's why we've had some lengthy discussion of how we want to structure this report, because it's not always really relevant to look at the same time period the previous year. It's more beneficial if you could look at the end results of one year versus the end results of another year, because that's going to capture all the activity. So when you have timing issues, it could really skew what this report looks like. And that's one of the reasons why we're kind of trying to work through how we best present that to you guys. So that
All the early dismissals.
Right, snow days, early
Lights.
dismissals.
This year.
So there's nothing like significant in this particular report that drove the numbers one way or
We
the
have
other?
no significant change in operations that would
Okay.
have any direct impact on the financial
Okay.
reports.
I think that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
And the budget transfers are to cover BOCES expenses.
Yeah, the large majority of them are. The one transfer, we had paid a contractual obligation under a current code that was more appropriate to be in the code that we're transferring it to. So that's just a one expenditure change. And then the BOCES expenditures, as we've talked about previously, many times, the departments will purchase out of their 450 supply code. A lot of those are BOCES purchase orders, where the money has to technically be paid out of a 490 code so that we capture it on state aid. So there's constant transfer of, when a PO is initiated, it's on a 450 code, but when we go to want to actually pay the bill, we want to pay it out of a 490 code, so we're moving money into the BOCES codes and between the BOCES codes pretty regularly.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0.
There's an error. 5-1.
Is that correct? Motion has been carried 5-1.
I actually would like to introduce somebody now. Tonight we have with us someone that was just appointed as a math teacher that was going to become, Jacqueline, you're going to begin on the 30th, correct? So Jacqueline Santilli is a resident of Hopewell Junction, and she has served in a couple of local school districts in some leave replacements, but is coming to us as a certified math 7 through 12 teacher, having graduated from SUNY Geneseo with a bachelor's in mathematics. And she is going to be working on a fantastically strong team at the middle school, teaching our young cherubs a wonderful foundation in mathematics. So Jacqueline, welcome to Marlboro, and welcome to being a Duke.
Moving on to recommended actions. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the disciplinary settlement for employee number 387 as presented. Can I get a motion to approve the disciplinary settlement? James, second. Frank, any discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, adopt the proposed 2018-2019 school year budget in the amount of $56,888,880. Can I get a motion to adopt the 2018-19 school year budget? Frank, second. James? Any discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. Moving on to the property tax report card. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, adopt the property tax report card for the school year 2018-19 as presented. Can I get a motion to adopt the property tax report? Frank, second. Joanne, discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. Moving on to Orange Ulster BOCES administrative budget. Resolved that the Board of Education cast its vote to approve the Orange Ulster BOCES 2018-19 administrative budget in the amount of $7,040,742, and that the district clerk is hereby authorized to execute the certification of such vote and transmit such certification to the Orange Ulster BOCES district clerk. Can I get a motion to approve the Orange Ulster BOCES 2018-19 budget? Russell, second. Frank, discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. Moving on to the Orange Ulster BOCES Board of Elections vote. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, casts its vote for Michael Bello and Eugenia Pavic to the Board of Cooperative Educational Services. Can I get a motion to vote for Michael Bello and Eugenia Pavic to the Board of Cooperative Educational Services? Russell, second. James. Any discussion? Do you know them, Joanne?
Do I know? Yes. They hold their seats. They're very good. They're very good advocates for the schools and the districts. They take care of all of us and our children.
Thank you.
And they go to Albany and also go to New York State School Boards Association and also present there too and bring a lot of good things to our communities. So I have no problem saying yes to them.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. Further on recommended actions, the SECRA Bayside project. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the Bayside State Environmental Quality Review, otherwise known as SECRA, as presented. Can I get a motion to approve the Bayside State Environmental Quality Review? Frank, second. Joanne? Any discussion?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Just remind us again, this puts us in the lead, I forget the term we used.
Lead agency.
The lead agency, right? That's the first, that's what the first document's for, right? The resolution?
Yes.
And then the second one, the short environment assessment form. Who did that impact study or impact assessment?
Our attorneys?
Yeah,
Our attorney did that?
Our attorney, Judy Maley, who has extensive experience dealing with secret resolutions and.
Right, in consultation with Bill Wisbauer.
Correct.
With the architect.
Okay, yep, we've talked about this a few times, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, this
So the last
completes-
vote declared us as the lead agency, in which we received no objections, and this completes the SECRA process, concluding that there is no negative impact from the project.
Once this is completed, we should be poised to, at either the next meeting or the meeting after, take action on the proposed improvements from Bayside Development.
Right, so we'll ask you at the next meeting to approve the memorandum of understanding with the developer now at the next meeting, if it's approved tonight.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. And finally, in recommended actions, the IP voice system. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the lease purchase agreement with Orange Ulster BOCES for the installation of an IP voice system, telephone system as presented. Can I get a motion to approve the lease purchase agreement? James, second. Russell? Any discussion?
Hey, Mike, I have a question. You mentioned this in your opening statements, but about how the funding's getting swapped out. Can you explain that a little further? Because this was originally the Smart Schools Bond Act. You're
Right.
not getting the money, so you're doing something different, which should equate to the same, but I don't quite think I follow it.
Understood. In the Smart Schools Bond Act, on the side of the Smarter Schools Bond Act, we had originally prepared to have a lease purchase agreement with Orange Ulster BOCES for some network upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing is we're going to move the network upgrades into the Smart Schools Bond Act and the telephone system into the lease purchase agreement with this action. So our new submission or our resubmission of our Smart Schools Bond Act reflects this change. So it really just allows us to move forward immediately as opposed to waiting for the Smarter Schools Bond Act to be approved.
And the numbers are the same?
Correct.
And no impact in delay in the network upgrades compared to
Well,
the phone?
yeah, but this...
But
you know,
comparably, this
right,
one's better.
right,
Okay.
Exactly. I mean, yes, there's a delay, absolutely. We want to be able to make those upgrades and purchases immediately, but we can't. This is more of an emergency nature because of the safety and security elements of our phone system.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, thank you.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. Moving on to old and new business, other items. Is there any old business before the board? Any new business? Other items, I would just like to remind the board of our 2-hour training coming up on April 30th at 6:30 upstairs in our conference room on community engagement and how it relates to student achievement. And we have Jamie McPherson presenting from NYSBA, and we actually are fortunate enough to have the opportunity to be the first board to receive this training adopted from a Harvard study on community engagement. So I think that should be hopefully pretty exciting. Anything else? Okay, at this time, the board would like to recognize district residents. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn the regular business meeting at 8:34? Yes. 8:34. Can I get a motion to adjourn? James, second. Russell, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?